Alright, so today I feel like I've had enough time with the Switch 2 to finally talk about how I feel about the thing. And we're going to start with the negative, the bad stuff, because I'm sure you've heard tons and tons about all the good things about the Switch 2. And we're going to get into, of course, some of the good things, and then we're going to end on my recommendation. Do I think you need a Switch 2? Do I think I need a Switch 2? All of those things we'll get into. First, please hit that like and subscribe button. And remember one thing, I am not a Nintendo fanboy, yet I'm also not a Nintendo hater. So I come at this completely independent as somebody who really just loves handheld gaming, and I have played a ton of different handheld devices, but honestly, I have used this thing in the dock mode more than I thought I would be, so I think I can give a decent insight into that world as well. Alright, so again, let's start with the bad. The first thing that I have to mention, and the issue I worry about the most for the future, is the battery life. This battery life is the worst of any handheld I've used, and like I said, I've used quite a few. While playing games like Cyberpunk or Mario Kart World or any of these Switch 2 games that really require a lot of power, you get maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, and that's about it. I've even noticed that playing some of the other games like Pokemon or Legend of Zelda, they also drain the battery pretty quick, where you get maybe 2 hours to 2.5. There isn't much more battery life than that. And if you're also downloading in the background, may Mario have mercy on your soul, you'll notice it to drain even quicker. The only reason why I'm really concerned about this, though, is not because I'm worried about being out somewhere and not being able to charge it or something of that nature. It more comes from a place of past experiences and knowing how it is when you have a mobile type device, whether it be a phone or a Nintendo DS or whatever it is. And there's that moment when you realize that, hey, the battery isn't able to keep up with the charge anymore. So if I'm charging it while playing it, the battery is still dropping. And that, for many people know, that that's the beginning of the end. And this can usually happen with, well, all devices and anything that has a battery. So when you're looking at something that already has a pretty bad battery life, it's a concern. It's definitely a concern for the future. Now, the one nice thing about the Switch 2 is you can reset the battery. Now, this is done by holding the volume up and down button and powering it off. You'll get like a reset screen and you can then reset the battery. And while that is comforting to know that there is something that might help in the future, I'm still not sure that it's going to be the catch-all that one would hope it is. Now, another thing that definitely is an issue with the Switch 2 is the memory. And this is definitely a multi-pronged issue. The first one being, well, just the memory itself. For one, it has a significant amount of memory that you'll chew through up relatively quick. One of the main reasons is because almost all Switch 2 cartridges are just a key code, so you're gonna have to rely on downloading most of the game. And with most of the newer games and even some of the later Switch 1 games, they require a lot of space. So you're going to have to invest in a new SD card, and this is the first negative, as you're going to need an upgraded Express SD card. Now, these are relatively expensive, especially when compared to what we came from. A 256 gig, a Nintendo licensed mini SD Express card actually comes in at about $60, which is one of the cheapest prices, believe it or not. And judging by some of the games that are already released and ones that are coming to the Switch 2, I think that's probably going to be enough for like maybe 6 or 7 games max, and I don't even know what like Call of Duty or Madden 26 is going to require. Most likely it's going to be quite a bit, and we're going to be needing even more memory. So just to start off at 256 for $60, that's huge. The other issue that I have regarding memory and regarding the key cards is just that it seems like this generation is moving far more digital than what was once believed. As like I said, almost every Switch 2 cartridge is just a key card. There's very few that are not, and that makes me believe that, of course, upcoming titles are going to be the same way. And at least for me, I felt like the Switch 1 was a little bit of a bastion of physical copies and that being important. and it seems like the Switch 2 is moving off of them. Not to mention, there is a number of game companies who are already taking their keycard sales and converting them to digital sales. That's not really a Switch 2 issue, but it sort of is a bit of a catalyst considering that the Switch 2 carts are more expensive, and that's why a lot of these companies are doing that. The last really big negative that I'm going to bring up has to do with Joy-Con drift, as there's already been reporting cases of that issue. One thing I will say, that I really thought that they were going to use a different mechanism for the analog stick. I did discover that they wouldn't be able to because of the magnets that actually hold the Switch to Joy-Cons in place. But another thing that I can say, like, it's a negative, but almost all controllers have some sort of analog drift at some point, sometime. Some maybe never, but for the most part, it is an issue. The nice thing is that the Switch 2 Joy-Cons actually come apart where you don't have to take the whole thing apart to change out your analog stick. Now, for a number of people, they're going to be really uncomfortable doing that, but I can tell you, it's actually a pretty easy process, and I'm somebody who doesn't like to open up that stuff and deal with it. But even like the Switch 1, which was really difficult to take everything out of it and replace it, it was doable. So now that they've made it to where you can almost access the analog stick as soon as you just take the Joy-Con 2 apart, it's not that bad. Knowing that there was a few other mechanisms that they could have used that would have really reduced the chances of analog drift, all of them required magnets, and so when you think about it, the Joy-Con 2 already has magnets in it, and it just wouldn't have worked. So I think they did the best with what they could here. Other notable negative things that one could throw in is the price, availability, all of those things, but honestly, I don't think that those are exclusively Switch 2 issues. I think you're going to see that with almost any device that comes out right now. So the good things, and I'm going to kind of speed run them, not because I don't appreciate them, but because I think most people already know most of the things that are good about the Switch 2. The first one being build quality. It just feels like a premium device. It really does. That's a one that I have a hard time conveying that to anyone who hasn't actually held the thing, but it really does feel like it's a premium quality. The screen size, also amazing. It's what we needed, a bigger screen. And I can say this coming from someone who loved the OLED screen, I haven't noticed a drop off. And honestly, that was something I was really worried about, but I think the LCD screen that they have in there, combined with the new graphics card, look really good. And on that note, I have to talk about actual visual quality. There's only a couple games that you can really get a good idea of how improved it is, one being Cyberpunk 2077, and that's actually why I did the review of that game before I talked about the Switch 2, just so people could kind of get an idea of how graphically it actually looks. You see, most of the Switch titles or Nintendo titles in general are not very graphically intensive, and so I do think that that's a good one to give you an idea of how it looks and how it compares to other machines like a Series X or the PS5. Now, is it as good? No, it's not, but it's really not as noticeable as what I thought it would be. And knowing that this is just the first set of games that came with the launch, I'm expecting it to look even better here in a couple of years when developers get used to using the chipset and developing for it, let alone what Nintendo actually does. And I know they don't typically go into graphically intensive games, but one can only hope that the new Legend of Zelda will have lifelike graphics or something of that nature to really be eye-catching. Another huge upgrade is just power processing speed. Those days of waiting for a loading screen to take more than a minute or so are pretty much gone. Even games like Cyberpunk 2077, which take a while for the PS5 to load, go at around the same speed on the Switch 2, which again is impressive. And personally, I think this is like the biggest upgrade of the Switch 2 because no longer is it hamstrung by its ability to process. And one of the ways that you can really tell, and another really bright spot for this, is playing old games. Like I was talking about Pokemon Scarlet earlier. And yes, I went back to Pokemon because it finally runs really good. There's a number of Switch games, quite a few of them, that have updated and that have had patches that allow them to run really well on the Switch 2. And it's like night and day playing those games. And a majority of them are actually free, which is also nice. And no, not like every game is immediately upgraded for the Switch 2. In some, you can tell a slight difference, but there are some other ones, like Bayonetta 3. It's like night and day. It's like almost a new game, and some of those games that we had, especially later on in the Switch's life, look so much better and perform so much better on the Switch too. So in some ways, it is like giving new life to older games. And I think just like with graphics, performance is one of those things where this is the worst it's gonna be. As developers get used to using this chipset and everything, they're gonna be able to even perform better. So it's just a hint of what is to come, I think. And in so many ways, I think this is exactly what many of us wanted from a Switch 2. We didn't want it to have new crazy creative ways to play a game or whatever. We just wanted it to be an upgraded system, and that's pretty much what we got. I really have no fear that there's going to be newer games that release that the Switch 2 can't play. There might be maybe a couple, but my experience with Cyberpunk 2077 and even looking at how well it plays Elden Ring, I'm pretty sure that this system is future-proof for a little while at least. Well, when I had the Switch 1, it was very hit or miss if we were even going to get the game, let alone how well it's going to actually perform. I also don't want to leave this out. I actually really enjoy the audio of the system. I don't know exactly what they did. I know they upgraded the speaker system and where they had it set up, I believe, but it makes a world of difference, honestly. So the final question is, do you need a Switch 2? And here's where I'm a little bit torn. I think if you only have a Switch 1 and that's your main mode of gaming, I think you probably should pick one up, honestly. It's going to make a massive difference in the games that you currently have, and also it's going to alleviate that fear of really being outdated, and everything that it does provide so far has been nothing but impressive. Now, if you have a PS5 or a Series X, and if you don't really care about handheld gaming, if that's not important to you, as well as like not being attached to the Mario series or Zelda or whatever it might be, anything Nintendo exclusive, then honestly, no, I wouldn't get it. It's not going to perform better than your PS5 or Series X. And I can say this as a person who owns all of those actually, and exclusively played my PlayStation Portal for almost a year now. I really am playing the Switch 2 more than I thought I would. So I know that that's almost contradictory, but I do love The Legend of Zelda. I do love a lot of Nintendo exclusive games, and I really found there to be a new life with a lot of the games that I already have played. Games, like I said, like Tears of the Kingdom or Pokemon Violet, that I didn't really even beat because I just got too tired of the performance and how difficult it was to play a game that like glitched and lagged so bad. I'm enjoying them now, as well as, like I said, going through like Cyberpunk 2077 and some of the new offerings that are on the table. Hopefully that gives you some sort of insight. I know at the end I'm a little contradictory when I said I have all these things and I play them, but then I also play the Switch 2. But for me, I am actually glad that I have it. I really wasn't that hyped up for it at all, and in fact, many times it said, it's okay, not that excited, I'm gonna get it because of the YouTube channel, but not much more than that. And turns out I really enjoy it. Another thing that I will note while I'm at the end of this, I don't have any of the accessories, and I don't recommend getting them, honestly. We actually went to Walmart to buy like some cheap Switch 1 controllers so that we could play Mario Kart and Mario Party Jamboree, and only spending like $20 on a controller instead of $90 for the new Pro controller or even new Joy-Cons, for me, worked really well. Now, understanding that if you want to do the motion games and all of that stuff in like Mario Party Jamboree, yeah, you're gonna have to buy the new Joy-Cons. But again, at least for me, it's not worth another $90 just to add a few mini games onto Mario Party Jamboree for other people to play, you know? Also, the online thing, that to me just looks awful. It looks like some really outdated video chat that we used to have like back in college. I just will not be investing in that, and I can only imagine how bad that's actually going to be on the battery life, let alone the internet connection and everything else. I don't know anyone who's really messed with it either. The reports I've heard has been like, it's crappy at best. So that's just, my input on those things as well. But hopefully it helped you. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Do you have a Switch 2? Do you want to get a Switch 2? Anything and everything about the Switch 2? Let's talk about it down in that comments. Anyway, take care everyone. I love y'all. Bye-bye.